Here we go. Good morning. It is Saturday morning, January 19th, January 18th, Saturday, January 18th. Good morning. And I'm going to start by talking a little bit about TikTok today. The TikTok ban goes into effect, it seems, tonight, unless something happens today, something dramatic happens today. But Joe Biden seems to have passed the ball away. But now, of course, the CEO of TikTok has said that's not good enough and we're going to go dark tomorrow. In which case, I think we will probably be back online Monday. And so that will be what it will be. And just remember the things we talk about on this channel, I would say, and I am advocating for the conscious position that we are creating our own experience. And so we are creating together, collectively and individually, this experience we're having on TikTok right now. And so it's important to remember that as it goes up and down and back and forth and in and out. I think finally we'll see that it sticks around, and we will be able to continue. In any case, we are talking about A Course in Miracles on January 18th. So today we'll be talking about lesson 18, which says, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. Yesterday, the lesson was, I see no neutral things. The day before that, I have no neutral thoughts. Yesterday, I see no neutral things. And today, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. So you've got a sequence there where we're being shown. Hi, Lois, Leslie, Jeanette. How are you guys doing? Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for being here. If you come into the room, if you check in, hit the screen, put some hearts up there on the board for me. I would appreciate it. Always helps the algorithm and the channel. And if you get a chance, go and thank you for those likes. Silver Sippy, thank you. Is that like Mississippi? I'm kind of by the Mississippi here, about an hour and 15 minutes away from the Mississippi here. Anyway, MISSISSIPPI. What was I talking about? I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. So we've been exploring the ideas that our experience of the world goes from the inside out. What I am seeing in the world is not making or creating the way I'm feeling or how I'm experiencing the world. It's actually going the other way. It's going from inside to outside. My thoughts are creating my world, and my thoughts are not neutral. They have power. If I think negatively, or if my thoughts are quote unquote destructive, or in the Course in Miracles, they're called miscreative. I'm miscreating with my thought. If my thoughts aren't loving, if I'm being judgmental, if I'm being critical, mean, sad, unhappy, according to the Course in Miracles, these are all thoughts of death, and they are fear thoughts. And what we're practicing doing here is getting rid of those fear thoughts, dismantling them, dissolving them. It's an alchemical process happening in the mind. And then as we go along with the workbook and the text, after we dissolve our conditioning, our conditioned mind, we're going to replace those thoughts. The Holy Spirit's going to help us replace those thoughts with the thoughts of God. So that is the difference between a split mind and a unified mind. The ego mind, under this framework, under the Course in Miracles, the ego mind is a mind of separation. It thinks it's separate from God. It thinks it's separate from everyone and everything. It thinks it's a separate entity. But know that, in fact, is an illusion. That is part of the dream that is being dreamed. That is part of the illusion that we are, or that I am separate from God. So here it's also pointing out, as we go through lesson 18, that the mind is unified. There is only one mind. My unified mind is the unified mind of God. I am having an individualized experience of the universal mind, and we all share the universal mind. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. It says the idea for today is another step in learning that the thoughts which give rise to what you see are never neutral or unimportant. It also emphasizes the idea that minds are joined, which will be given increasing stress later on. Today's idea does not refer to what you see as much as to how you see it. Therefore, the exercises for today emphasize this aspect of your perception. And then it asks us to undertake the exercise in a specific way. But let's just for a second think about this idea. Today's idea does not refer to what you see as much as to how you see it. So as I look at the world, as I look at other people, as I process what's going on in the world, can I look at it and hold the idea in my consciousness? Can I hold the space? Can I vibrate at a high enough level so that I understand and that I experience the world I'm seeing is myself pushed out, as Neville Goddard says it, but that everything I see is an aspect of myself. There are not separate people out there. These are not separate experiences. There is all one thing happening. I'm experiencing one thing. And the idea is to actually begin to not just understand that intellectually, but to actually experience it. It says, look about you, selecting subjects for the application of the idea for today as randomly as possible, and keeping your eyes on each one long enough to say, look around you, select subjects. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of how I see blank. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of how I see this phone. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of how I see that bookcase. I'm not alone in experiencing the effects of how I see this body. Okay? And the idea is that the way I experience the world will radiate out as a vibration. And so that'll be the idea of resonance there. As I think of the world, as I experience the world, I will radiate a tone, a vibration, and other people will experience the world in the same way. So according to the Course in Miracles, this is the process of salvation. I don't even have to speak about it, but unless I want to, but I can simply resonate with it. I can simply carry a vibration or a tone, and because the mind is one, that tone, that vibration, those thoughts will be shared. And the Course calls that extension. It says, conclude each practice period by repeating the more general statement, I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. Okay, and says do that 3 or 4 times today, 3 or 4 times during the day for less than a minute, and that's sufficient to practice the idea for the day. And then what we're doing is also covering then a section from the text, one section per day, as we do one workbook lesson per day. And so the 18th section of the text is from chapter 3, section 2, and it's entitled Miracles as True Perception. So the miracles as defined by A Course in Miracles are not technically physical things, physical happenings. They are transformations in the mind. They are transformations of thought. That is what a miracle is defined as in A Course in Miracles. And then here it's saying miracles as true perception. So it's linking all these concepts together. My true perception is a miracle. To perceive truly is a miracle. To perceive the truth is a miracle. Why is it a miracle? Because, as the Course says, I put myself in an impossible situation. I have conditioned my mind throughout my incarnations and throughout my journey on this planet through the state of existence. I've conditioned my mind to think I'm separate from God. And the tricky part of this is if you've been a spiritual practitioner like myself for many years, the idea is there might be an objection to that thought that I think I'm separate from God. What the Course in Miracles says and starts to point out is the idea that subconsciously there's resistance in there. The ego mind, the mind that believes it's separate, is, thanks for the likes, that subconscious mind is holding on to those old ideas. It's kind of in there pretty deep. And so to continue to practice, continue to study the text, continue, just like we hear in 12-step programs, one day at a time. Every day is a new day. I'm going to renew my spiritual practice. I'm going to tell myself again every day, I am not separate from God. And I want to have that experience. So miracles is true perception. It says, I have stated that the basic concepts referred to in this course are not matters of degree. Again, the I referred to here, the narrator in A Course in Miracles, is identified as Jesus, the voice of Jesus. Certain fundamental concepts cannot be understood in terms of opposites. This is an important paragraph here. It is impossible to conceive of light and darkness or everything and nothing as joint possibilities. They are all true or all false. It is essential that you realize your thinking will be erratic until a firm commitment to one or the other is made. A firm commitment to darkness or nothingness, however, is impossible. No one has ever lived who has not experienced some light and something. No one, therefore, is able to deny truth totally, even if he thinks he can. Right? So isn't this an interesting situation? Complete consciousness, oneness, has metaphorically and in effect split itself up into individualized consciousness, entered into an incarnation, forgotten itself, forgotten the oneness of itself. And so you may have experienced this yourself, as I have, or you'll hear people, atheists or agnostics, deny the idea of God, deny the experience of God. So here it's saying no one, therefore, is able to deny the truth totally, even if he thinks he can. So even though you think, well, fortunately or unfortunately, depending what you're thinking or what your position is, cannot really separate yourself from God. That's why in many spiritual traditions and spiritual writings and teachings, this world will be referred to as an illusion or a dream, or recently, you've heard some people use the word simulation. We're in a simulation. Yeah, because you can't really separate yourself from God. The universe is one word, universe. There is one mind and one consciousness. But we've, under the free will principle, we've allowed ourselves to have the experience of fragmented consciousness or split mind, as the Course refers to it. So isn't that interesting? And I'm sure, if you've read any number of spiritual books, some of the newer stuff, probably, what's the guy who used to be on PBS? Why can't I remember people's names now? Not Ram Dass, the other one who used to always be on PBS. Anyway, I'm sure he's talked about this concept of fragmentation, hiding yourself in the experience, and then waking up to the true nature of the self. The idea of innocence was introduced yesterday in the text, and basically the Course is saying, in my true state, I'm perfect, whole, and complete. I have not sinned. I am sinless. There is no evil. We talked about that yesterday, that might be a tough concept to swallow. The ego mind will object. There is no evil, and I am sinless. The ego will object to that, of course, and the ego will say, but of course I can see evil. There's evil in the world. And then it has to be understood, again, that the world is a dream or an illusion. We're sort of on this holodeck or in this simulation to know thyself, to learn about ourselves, to learn about consciousness. And so we've created a simulation. We are dreaming a dream where those types of things can happen. The Course in Miracles goes through this, goes through it in the workbook. It also goes through it in the text. The partly innocent, it says, are apt to be quite foolish at times. Innocence is not a partial attribute. It is not real until it is total. It is not until their innocence becomes a viewpoint with universal application that it becomes wisdom. Innocent or true perception means that you never misperceive and always see truly. More simply, it means that you never see what does not exist and always see what does. And here it kind of gives you some of the theory behind the idea of what it calls later overlooking, or looking past, or the idea of forgiveness. Can I look past people's behavior? Can I hear past what people are saying and understand that everybody's learning, everybody's progressing on this journey? And just because somebody says something that I don't agree with or that triggers me doesn't mean that they are not a son of God, a child of God, just like I am. And can I perceive them in their true nature and in their true state? And what it says in the Course is you're going to have trouble doing that until you accept it yourself, until you accept your own innocence, until you accept your own sinlessness. You're not going to be able to look from there and to look out into the world and to see that. And of course, this is a practice. This is a process. Okay. You're going to catch yourself. I'm going to catch myself getting triggered. I'm going to catch myself getting frustrated at times. And the idea is to stop then and then recall the truth. When you lack confidence in what someone will do, you are testing to your belief that he is not in his right mind. This is hardly a miracle-based frame of reference. It also has the disastrous effect of denying the power of the miracle. The miracle perceives everything as it is. So right there, the miracle is true perception. The miracle perceives everything as it is. If nothing but the truth exists, right-minded seeing cannot see anything but perfection. I have said only that what God creates or what you create with the same will has any real existence. This, then, is all the innocent can see. They do not suffer from distorted perception. You are afraid of God's will. Now it starts to address the idea of fear. You are afraid of God's will because you have used your own mind, which he created in the likeness of his own, to miscreate. This is where the idea of guilt also comes from, or original sin, but guilt at a fundamental level. What is the fundamental guilt? Fundamental guilt is I am miscreating with my mind. I've been given divine gifts and I'm misusing them. I am creating without the will of God. And so I feel guilty. You're afraid of God's will because you have used your own mind, which he created in the likeness of his own, to miscreate. The mind can miscreate only when it believes it is not free. An imprisoned mind is not free because it is possessed or held back by itself. Any resistance, any anxiety, any fear, okay, it's all self-created. Any lack of progress, any sense of frustration comes from myself, comes from the little self, comes from self-sabotage or myself interfering with myself. It says, nothing can prevail against the Son of God who commends his spirit into the hands of his Father. By doing this, the mind awakens from its sleep and remembers its creator. All sense of separation disappears. This single purpose creates perfect integration and establishes the peace of God. Yet this vision can be perceived only by the truly innocent. So I have to forgive myself. I have to forgive everyone and everything. And later in the text and later in the workbook, these ideas and practices are addressed. This ability to forgive, the practice of forgiveness in the course called atonement. So I'm moving from a sense of separation to a sense of oneness, at one-ment, atonement. The way to correct distortions is to withdraw your faith in them and to invest it only in what is true. You cannot make untruth true. Later, this is referred to in the text as bringing the false to the true, which is a very interesting idea. So the idea of correction becomes correcting my own thoughts instead of trying to correct things outside of myself. You'll hear Abraham Hicks talk about this. You'll hear Bashar talk about this, if you know who those individuals are. The idea is to straighten it out inside, and then the outside will reflect that. The only way I'm going to change my outer conditions is to change my internal state of being. How do I change my internal state of being? Well, I just have to realize and remember it's already been created perfect. It's already perfect, whole, and complete. And if I can maintain that state of consciousness, if I can develop that state of consciousness, if I practice that state of consciousness, then automatically the external picture, my perception, will reflect that. Truth overcomes all error, and those who live in error and emptiness can never find lasting solace. If you perceive truly, you are canceling out misperceptions in yourself and in others simultaneously. That's the idea we were practicing for today from the workbook. My seeing things differently, I am not the only one experiencing the effects of that. Other people experience the effects of my changed consciousness. If you practice that idea long enough, or if you've been on a spiritual path long enough, you will understand that that idea is true. I can actually change my experience of another person. Neville Goddard talks about this. I can change my experience of another person by changing my internal perception of them, my internal dialogue with them, and the way that I perceive them internally. I can change my experience with them externally. Try it. It works. Because you see them as they are, truthfully, as innocent, you offer them your acceptance of their truth so that they can accept it for themselves. This is the healing that the miracle induces. Awesome. Fantastic. And so that's all for today. Lesson 18 of A Course in Miracles. And tomorrow or later tonight, midnight tonight, looks like we might be heading for a temporary, unless something else changes today, TikTok ban. But I think we'll be back online fairly quickly. If not, maybe for the next 2 days or day and a half or whatever it takes, I'll try to do a live Course in Miracles, 11 a.m. Central Time. I'll try to do it on Red Note. I just saw that I could do lives on Red Note, and so I've got the same username over there, Steve OC. Thanks for the likes today. Follow this account. I talk about metaphysical ideas, practices, and then how we can apply that in our daily lives. Okay, and what that means for the planet, what that means for how we experience the world, and how the world changes in front of our very eyes. So that's all for today. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. Peace and blessings. And I'll talk to you in a couple days. Take care.